The average cost of car insurance in 2023 was over $3,000 per year. Now that's someone typically doing what we call full coverage, comprehensive, collision, liability, and all of the main coverages. In that year, it's grown and actually increased over $3,000 per year and climbing. In 2025, it's increased even more because we're following up with a lot of the claims that have happened since 2020. There's a lot of changes in the industry. There are two major pieces that you've got to be aware of when you're looking for cheaper insurance. The biggest mistake people make when they're buying cheaper insurance is they get downgraded coverage. There's a few reasons that's a mistake, partially because, one, you're not covered. A lot of people think that the car itself is the primary focus of insurance, and that's not even the case. Yes, if you're driving a Mercedes, a BMW, a Lexus, a Ferrari, all of the higher end cars, when you're spending more than $60,000 to $80,000 per vehicle, then it makes quite a bit of a difference. 80,000 is like that mark where insurance starts to see it differently. So cars that were $80,000 are always valued at $80,000 and above. That being said, that's not the primary focus of what insurance is looking at. What they're more worried about is the liability risk. We know what the car's worth. We know how much the door costs to fix. The insurance company knows if the car's totaled, they're out $30,000, $40,000, $80,000 depending on the value of your vehicle. Now what they're going to do is they're focused on the liability risk is how likely are you going to be sued? What's the odds of your location versus you, and all of those pieces mixed in together that they're taking on when you're purchasing a policy. That's why when you see a policy go from $300 a month down to $180, there's a big difference. We've got to look at, okay, why did it jump down that much? Now, don't get me wrong, there are times where it can be the same coverage, but when you look at your policy, what are you getting compared to what have you had previously? If you're downgrading your coverage and it doesn't make sense and it puts you at a financial risk, you may be risking hundreds of thousands of dollars versus saving a few $100s per month. For some of you, that actually makes sense, and that's fine. That's the choice you get to make in the insurance world, is what policy fits your budget. If it doesn't fit your budget, you've got to make it work so you can pay for it along with being covered as much as possible. By the way, if you are shopping for car insurance, I'll put a link in the description below where you can work with local independent agents where we shop across multiple companies. That way we can try to get you a good fit for the price and the coverages, trying to mix the two together. The second biggest mistake people don't realize is when you're purchasing car insurance, there is a give and get. When you give a lower premium, odds are you're purchasing a lower quality company. What's quality in insurance? It's essentially the time frame that it takes to repair your vehicle, the estimates that they give you, and the trouble that you're going to have when you're dealing with those claims adjusters. No company's perfect, although there are some really good ones out there where they give you a rental car, you hop in the rental car, 5 days later your car is done, you turn in the rental car, and you don't sign anything. And I've been through that. I've actually lived that whole process, and it was smooth and simple. Fun to drive another car for a little while. Unfortunately, I had a claim, but at the end of the day, it was not a problem. I've seen other claims where 20 days later they're fighting to get the rental car and they're borrowing their friend's car and it wasn't covered, and then now they're fighting on how much the car's worth. I put an alarm system in there and they're fighting on if they're going to cover that, where another company won't fight that. There's kind of those budgets that they're allowed to go within and say, okay, great, we understand that you've done some improvements, we understand this, that, and the other, and we're going to cover those situations. Now, that's not always the case. It's per situation that happens, but the length of getting your car repaired and the value that they put at your vehicle, and like we mentioned, them protecting you when there's a lawsuit, you want to make sure that you have the right fit, again, for your budget, and that you have the right company that's going to back you up in those situations. Not every company is there to deny claims, although that is the name of the game, right? They don't want to pay out as much as possible. They want to pay out as little as possible, get you back on the road. If it's a used part, they're going to replace it with a used part, unless you purchase new parts or OEM parts. There's different pieces to a policy. And when you're paying more, sometimes those packages include all of those pieces that you would have expected to get with the lower cost insurance. Again, that's something you should talk with your agent about, trying to get some more clear directions on whether you're giving up much, if at all, something to go to a different company. Again, there are multiple companies that are competitive, that are in the middle of those where they're really good and good priced. It depends on your specific situation. The main thing you've got to focus on, again, we said coverage. If you're wanting to understand the coverage a little bit better, I've got my Car Insurance 101 that's going to go a little bit more in depth in that scenario. If you're looking for the best companies to lean towards, we've got our top 10 companies here that have outshined the rest of the companies. I'm Mark with Think Insurance. I'll see you in the next one.